Kusama KSM Value Expectation 2026, as per the Kusama conjecture cost, and for all intents and purposes specialized examination in 2026, the KSM cost is supposed to actually cross a definitely normal value level of 42,911. The really normal hardly the least value kind of worth of Kusama, toward the finish of the ongoing year, ought to generally be 41,729. Actually contrary to popular belief, besides KSM can really arrive at a most basically extreme value level of 49,830 KSM value estimate, January 2026 and January 2026. The cost of Kusama is determined to be at around a base worth of 28,353. In a sort of big way, the Kusama value definitely worth can arrive at a limit of 31,897. With the typical exchanging basically worth of 31,011 in USD Kusama value forecast February 2026. The cost of Kusama really is anticipated to reach at any rate sort of worth of 30,775 in 2026. Contrary to popular belief, the value of KSM could reach a maximum of 33,138, with an average exchange value of 32,252 throughout 2026. Kusama Value Prediction Walk 2026. Kusama is basically expected to reach a minimum of 31,715 in 2026. The value of KSM could reach up to 34,428, with a typical exchange value of 32,897 throughout 2026. Kusama value estimates for April 2026, a certainly normal Kusama value KSM could rise to 34,213 by the end of April. Contrary to popular belief in general, KSM can be traded at a very high price of 35,744. And a base expected value of 32,736, which is usually quite significant. Kusama value estimate May 2026. The normal cost of Kusama KSM could go to 35,581 toward the finish of May in a generally major way. KSM could mostly be exchanging around a greatest sort of worth of 37,112. With a base expected cost of 34,400 or so. They mostly thought Kusama KSM value estimate June 2026. For June, the cost of Kusama particularly is anticipated to for the most part arrive at a typical month to month. Basically the furthest really reaches of 36,649. Well, the coin will exchange between a limit of 38,891 and at kind of the least 35,172 or so. They for the most part thought Kusama value conjecture July 2026. The fairly normal cost of Kusama KSM could essentially go to 37,748 toward July's end, which specifically is fairly significant. KSM could kind of be exchanging around a greatest generally worth of 40,724. With the base expected cost of 36,271. KSM cost assumptions. August 2026. As of August 2026, Kusama is valued at mostly around 37,404. For all intents and purposes, the value of Kusama could reach a limit of 42,611. With a typical exchange value of 38,881 in US dollars. KSM value estimates for September 2026 and September 2026, the cost of Kusama was literally around the base price of 38,477. Kusama Valuator October 2026. A fairly normal Kusama KSM value could rise to nearly 40,451 by the end of October. For all intents and purposes, KSM typically trades at a high of 46,149. With an expected value of 38,975. Kusama value estimate for November 2026. Kusama's actual regular value KSM could certainly climb to 41,260 by the end of November, which is particularly significant. KSM can literally trade for a top price of 47,767. With a base expected value of 39,784. Kusama value estimate for December 2026. The certainly normal Kusama value KSM could rise mostly unnoticed to 42,911. By the end of December in every sense KSM can be traded at a maximum value of 49,830 and a base expected value of 41,729. Which in principle is very important. How much will Kusama actually cost in 2026? Overall this is very important. KSM is expected to peak at 49,830 by the end of 2026 and bottom at 41,729. Which is a significant amount in most cases. Did Kusama have a specific future? Or did he really think so in terms of value? Kusama has incredible potential to reach new levels. Contrary to popular belief, it is generally believed that the value of KSM will increase significantly. According to seasoned experts and business analysts, Kusama could raise the city's costs to 330,896 by 2030. Should I buy a big Kusama in 2026? It is assumed that Kusama's costs for all intents and purposes will continue to rise because contrary to popular belief, the lack will definitely increase the overall cost of your support. In most cases all guesses are guesses, and this is especially important before making a decision really for the most part specifically for the most part. Mostly invest in what you can definitely mostly specifically for the most part definitely particularly basically achieve and actually mostly for all intents and purposes specifically for all intents and purposes particularly basically actually mostly do the most sort of pretty basically generally particularly really definitely sort of fairly extreme generally fairly really generally kind of really particularly actually very definitely for all intents and purposes possible research which kind of generally for all intents and purposes specifically essentially literally generally really for the most part essentially is basically very important in most cases. January 2027 KSM value estimate. In January 2027 Kusama will typically cost around 41,194. The value of Kusama specifically actually really essentially definitely essentially mostly essentially is a typical exchange value of 45,056 in US dollars and most can actually generally basically really specifically really definitely for the most part specifically for all intents and purposes mostly reach the limit of 46,344. February 2027 Kusama KSM value figure. Kusama really mostly for the most part actually for the most part definitely really basically is actually expected to for the most part basically essentially basically generally mostly actually definitely essentially hit a typical